Welcome to Veterans News and Special Reports podcast. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy what we're going to show you. Okay, this is Professor Rick Ballou, PhD in Surviving the VA. Here at Veterans News and Special Reports, we're going to give you a no-holds-barred reports on the VA system and how it works. Welcome to episode 2 of VA doctors and staff working from home. This one is called You as a Veteran Has No Rights. Judges Working from Home, podcast episode 2. I want to tell you about different things that I went through and learned how to survive in the VA. Our friend John is just getting out of the service, and he is discovering he's got some physical problems, and he's got his retirement check, and his wife and kids are at home seeing him go downhill. This is something all veterans are going to need to know. So, without further ado, thank you for coming. In this special reports, the people that corrupt the VA system. The VA is built to deny benefits, 100% pure. If a veteran becomes smart enough to override their lies, they make new laws. The Veterans Administration has been working since 1920 to deny benefits to their veterans. As the years pass, 3/4 of the United States of America have been veterans. And the VA system has gotten better at denying benefits. See the proof here. We're going to look at the year 2005, Rick's third time fighting the Veterans Administration and Washington, D.C. system. The third time is the charm. Be denied third time, you go see the VBA judge. I learned how to fight the Veterans Administration, and I found that if I go and get my records, study them, research them, look at all the information I can get my hands on, this is a critical factor. As the years passed, it became 2012. I was trying to get my case from 2005 reenacted, reconnected. You have to have proof that the VA messed up. Rick learns to fight the VA the right way. This case was in 2005 at the St. Petersburg, Florida VA Regional Office. I was in front of the DRO worker face-to-face, Gene Brown of the United States Veterans Affairs, St. Petersburg, Florida. The case was for my Agent Orange, PTSD increase, migraine headaches increase, and other small cases. Now, the trick was they were kicked out. Right about now, you're asking yourself, why were they kicked out? They stated there was not enough information. They didn't have records of my military experience to give me PTSD or Agent Orange or any other of my disabilities like my back injury and any of that other lies that they were committing. I was being represented by a disabled veterans lawyer. They said he was a rep or a lawyer or something like that. He wasn't the one I've been working with for 2 years. He mysteriously had a class that he had to go to. He couldn't be to the face-to-face hearing. So that put me in a bad position because the guy that was with me had no idea what to talk about. Now, the idea was after I got rejected, How can I be smart at this? And this is something John must learn, is the right way to file a claim, the right way to find the information. It's called research. Look up your records, find them. Talk to nurses, talk to people in the medical field that you're friends with. Then make a decision and decide what to do next. This is the key. As in any war, you have to know your enemy. The VA doctors at the VA hospital is 99.9% your enemy. They will not help you in any way. They will not lift a finger anymore to help, because why? The VA chain of command has changed. So, as a warrior, you look for the chain of command. The United States of America's Veterans Administration chain of command. Number 1, the regional office director in each state. Her job, or his job, is to keep the budget under control. Also, he gives the bonuses to the workers that screw over the veterans. Number 2, the regional office decision review officer, the DRO. He's not a lawyer. He's not a doctor. He's doing what he's told. Number 3, the VA doctor in the white coat on every ward is the controller. He controls the students, what they can see, what they can treat, what they cannot see or say. Now, the next one is number 4, is the CNP examiner, an outside doctor under the direct control of the local VA regional office DRO in every state. This is the key. This is the one we have to look at. It's new. In 2005, I was rejected for my disability rating and increase of my disabilities. Ms. Brown told me she was a federal judge, so I went and checked on it. 2005 was a pivotal year for myself, as I had discovered the VA was lying to me for years. The review board at the regional office said there was no paperwork, or at least face-to-face exam showed no paperwork. I found out the woman told me she was a federal judge, but she was retired. She was too young to retire. My next idea was to ask for a transcript of the case so I could reread it and then put in new information. I found blank spots. Why? There was some sort of problem with what I was saying. As I was answering the judge, they modified it. So that was the way I started working with trying to find my files. As you see, my war was beginning. John was home from Iraq on 1 month leave. John was being in the military for 1 year, as he knew he made sergeant in charge of a squad of men, and we were waiting for the next deployment. His wife and kids liked him home and decided, yes, go for 20 years. So John re-upped for another tour of duty. The year was 2006, March 3rd, my first shot at the VA. As in war, you have to make a patrol. You have to find intel. You always got to find what the enemy is doing. My first idea was to roll in my electric wheelchair to the regional office and found guards just inside the door. They asked me where I was going. I said the file room. It was on the 2nd floor. The trick was I didn't tell the file room that I was coming. So these files are original files. If I had made an appointment, they could put me off for 6 to 8 weeks, maybe months, that it would give them time to either destroy the files they had or hide them even deeper in their system. As a veteran in any war, you know, keep your enemy off guard. Keep them so you know what they're going to do next. Welcome back. I'm Rick Ballou, professor of Surviving the VA. Now, as we're talking about what did they find, they, in my case, in 2005, and decided they didn't have any information. Okay, as you saw in the last slide, they did not know I was coming. So, when I got there, they refused to show me my files. I told them, I said, excuse me, I talked to my congressman. He said, they're my files. I'm entitled to these files. Now, also, he has suggested if I had problems to get a U.S. Marshal in to explain to them those were my files. Within 20 minutes, the files were in the office. These is what I found. You will find this interesting. But now you can't even go in the VA and do that. You have to make an appointment, which they put you off for 6 to 8 weeks, as I said. They will hide everything. So make sure when you get out of the military or you're able to get a copy of everything. You can do it if you try. Thank you. When the file clerk came back into the office, this is what I found by me in 2006 at the regional office, St. Petersburg, Florida. They held 2% of my original service records. I found them in this vanilla envelope. You'll see in Veterans Rights 6, VA corruption proof. Now, this is the proof of their corruption. They put all of my paper military records in the files. I found in my service records, service medals, service commendations by the Army of the United States of America, 4-star General Westmoreland. I was in the Navy, though. 2 admirals, one of them was Fleet Admiral, the other one was the Admiral for Vietnam. The service records were hidden in the regional office in 1973. As you see in the arrows, the green one is where they bring it into the building and they stamp it. That's in 1973, July 10th, 1973. A couple of days later, after they sat and figured out what to do with them, then they stamped it going into the file room. All through these documents you see on the right was documents that had original files in. I made sure they made copies of it. I told them I wasn't going to leave until I had a copy, so we sat by a copy machine and copied all of them. I decided after leaving the regional office a couple of days later, I went over to the file room at the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital and played the same trick on them. Once you do one ambush, you try to do it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it failed. They showed me the files, but wouldn't let me take them and look in an office and look at them. So they said they would make copies. They're learning real quick. So I said, okay. So they told me it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get the copies. So I said, oh, okay. So what they did was they made the copies, but all the files they found was removed from the list that they gave me as a carbon copy. Now, the bad thing about it is the dumb guy working for it had a bad Monday or whatever it was. He accidentally gave me all of the folders with the original copies, all punched, all of them, 1967 through 1969, hundreds of documents that were original. They had it at the VA hospital. I got my hands on it. Score one for the good guys. Now, as you could see in the last slide, the two folders. This folder was Mr. Bill Gray. I blocked out his Social Security number so that would not be an issue with anybody in the government. Boom. Now, if you look on the right, that was full of documents like my medals, this shows beyond a shadow of a doubt the Veterans Administration Hospital and Regional Office in 1973 had in fact 90% of my original documentation. This is a transferring orders from Vietnam to London, where I had my serious back injury in 1969. These are not only original documentation that I was given by the VA hospital in Tampa, Florida, as proof of a HIPAA violation from 1973 to deny benefits. Of course, the person they sent to see me to check out these files in my home in Spring Hill, Florida, was my lawyer that representing me at the Veterans Regional Office court case. The lawyer that came by to see me tried to get these original copies to make them disappear, but I hid them in my house so he couldn't find them. The owner of the law firm immediately found out that what he did and fired him because I could bring a lawsuit of a HIPAA violations for him trying to copy or steal these files, working with the Veterans Regional Office and the Veterans Administration. Having these records in 2005 and 6, I went through them every page by page, researching the answers, looking up internet questions I had about Agent Orange. In 2010, living in Spring Hill, going to the James A. Haley Hospital in Tampa, Florida for the past 6 years. After reading the VA records from 1975 to 99, my service and the regional office records that were real. Note, I began to see a dermatologist at the VA hospital for my skin rash. In 1978, the Vietnam Veterans Organization, with lawyers, suing the chemical companies for exposure to AKA Agent Orange. This lawsuit was settled out of court, and for $62 million, the Veterans Administration got the money, the VA veterans did not. You will soon see a discussion on Agent Orange in a future podcast. Thank you. Making copies of the documentation, I gave it to my dermatologist. This dermatologist looked at my records. I had been having this problem for 42 years. She prescribed medication, and that didn't work. It also came back. 2012, she wrote to the hospital report she believed it was from Agent Orange, aka Agent Orange. Proof 101. If a doctor says you have a disability, then you have a disability. The regional office and the VA has to go with it. The doctor printed out the file of the report that I was exposed to Agent Orange. I took it to the PVA Veterans Rep office at the VA hospital, had them make a copy, submitted it to the regional office. Then everything. Now, this is where everything got interesting. as HIPAA violations and malpractice began to rise. As I stated, the owner of the law firm fired his partner for malfeasance and misfeasance because he could get sued for what they were about to do. But as a veterans, we have no rights. No legal lawyer would sue another lawyer. Come on, folks. You got Rick Ballou back at you again, coming from Veterans News and Special Reports. We're going to end this podcast here so you can look at it over and over until you understand everything that's going on. Now the next one is the part where I get to show you how they corrupted the VA. They learned from my experience. They did other things to me, as John will learn soon enough. You got Rick Ballou back at you again, coming from Veterans News and Special Reports. We're going to end this podcast here so you can look at it over and over until you understand everything that's going on. Now the next one is the part where I get to show you how they corrupted the VA. They learned from my experience. They did other things to me, as John will learn soon enough.